So it appears that illegals and dead people can vote, and the rule of law is kind of dead. I'm not trying to be overdramatic. It's just that when polls close, they're supposed to be closed. I thought the election process in America was set on a specific set of rules that we followed. That way it would avoid fraud, things like this, but apparently not. I guess it's become way too complicated for a nation to have a voting system that is secure from fraud. I mean, I know my bank card is secure from fraud because I used to travel, I don't know, in the 80s and the 90s, and a lot in the 90s. I've been to Hawaii and all around the country doing construction. It's pretty easy. Just got in my car and drove. And then when I needed gas, I'd just put my bank card in the gas pump. Out came gas. And when I'd look at my receipt, there I was. I was charged $20 for some gas. I've walked into branches in states, 4 or 5 states away from mine, and put my card in the ATM, and out came money. It'd actually bring up my account and go, what else would you like? How about a current account balance? Oh, that would be sweet. How much do I have in there? Oh, you have this much in there. Well, how did it know? It's amazing. So somehow voting has become way more complicated than money transactions. So I guess it all falls back down to the scam that, you can't make people register to vote because that would be discrimination. Keeping people from voting. Well, back in the day, you used to actually have to be a property owner to vote in county things and to elect your House representatives. Because if you didn't own land, you really didn't have a stake in what was going on. Who cared what they were doing with laws that would affect private property? You don't own any. But now everybody gets to vote. I'm surprised my dog doesn't get to vote. I mean, she's a lot smarter than some of the people I've met. It appears that apathy has become malignant with the American voter, and everybody's just too busy, I guess, to care about what's really going on. I mean, that would be sad. It's like, oh my God, the people that are supposed to care don't care. And if you were a Washington politician, what would that signal to you?
Hi, this is John Jeffers, inviting you to listen to my show, The Jeffers Brief. On The Jeffers Brief, we discuss topics of interest and concerns for preppers and patriots. You can only find us on the Contra Radio Network on podbean.com or KYAH 540 AM, Utah's Talk Authority. Hope you join me, and we'll talk to you then.
I mean, if you're a parent and your kids don't care what you're doing, or you don't care what your kids are doing, what is the signal you're sending out? What is the example that you're setting? So all these Washington politicians like, look, all we got to do is get on the news, spend a couple $1 million, and we get elected into some great, cushy job now. I mean, they had to track George Washington down and say, we really need you again. And he's like, how many times must I serve my new country? One more. We need you to be the president. So I guess the signal to Washington is we don't care. We don't care about our freedom. We don't care about our liberty. And we don't care about our property rights. We don't care about nothing. Well, I mean, yeah, we want a bigger flat screen TV. That's important. We want to give our children everything that we never had, so they grow up to be entitled little snowflakes. I mean, that's not the agenda, obviously, as a parent, trying to give your kids a better life, but that definitely seems to be the outcome. So we care about the things in the world and of the world and everything the world has to offer. And that's what we tell them in Washington. We would rather have safety and security than privacy and liberty. And we know how that expression goes. Then you deserve neither. And that's what we're getting. We will be a socialist country before you know it. Well, we're already socialist. I mean, we just haven't woke up and found out that we have cancer. We're just going on our merry way. So I'm in a dour mood. I'm not very happy. Not because I'm a sore loser, but that's how it will be portrayed in the news. And the Republicans will do nothing about it. They'll make a big storm over it and complain about voter fraud for, I don't know, a news cycle. And then it'll be over. But boy, if this had happened in reverse, oh, there'd be protests and riots and burning of buildings because that's what a good socialist does. You don't get your way? Burn something to the ground. This election has brought validation to the Democrat Party and the Socialists. Antifa will continue to burn things because you'd think now they're happy. They got in all their little socialist people. But that's not how it works. Now that they can run roughshod, their efforts will probably be doubled or tripled. And Patriots won't stand. I don't care. Everyone's going to get mad at me now. Well, I'll stand. I always click like on that on Facebook when it says, when that day comes, will you stand? I always like those posts. You ever read any of them? No, probably not. Because they're usually just a meme that requires no action other than like. Click, like. You're awesome. That's great. But when the chips are down, the Sunshine Patriots and the fair weather fans of this movement of freedom will fold like a cheap suit. Because that's what happens. That's why there was only 3% of the colonists that actually got involved and fought against England. Everyone else was just like clicking like, I guess, on, some of the things Thomas Paine and them were writing about. Click, like, common sense. That's a good article by Thomas Paine. Did you read that? Yeah, I had a great image on the cover. So I had to read the first paragraph. Sounds cool. Click, like, I like it. And the other 3% were like, it's going to be the click of a musket trigger because we're going to fight. We're not going to just sit around and wait for everyone else. All the Sunshine Patriots. Boy, it's cold out. Tongue ain't even working. All the Sunshine Patriots, they're all just going to click like and move on. It's not going to happen. Because you see, the enemy within is far harder to defeat than our enemies outside the border. It's almost like a zombie apocalypse. You just shoot the zombie and you don't really have to feel bad. It's a zombie. It's like shooting clay pigeons. No one cares. Be the best apocalypse ever. But when it becomes fighting an enemy right within your borders, that's way harder. Think of it like this. You have a family member. You have a big family. Every couple times a year, you get together and have a big family reunion. And there's always that one family member that no one likes. Shows up drunk. Just does something offensive. He's rude. He's obnoxious. Boisterous. Always violates your space. Flirts with your wife. And then when you confront him, he's like, just kidding. I'm your uncle. I'm your cousin. Just kidding. And you turn around and he's doing it again. And everyone's just like, don't bite him. So you have a conversation with this justifiable outcast of the family. You're like, dude, no one likes you. He's like, well, you know my mom. She was an alcoholic. And my dad, he left home. I was raised by wolves. Wah, wah, wah. And you're like, yeah, I know. It sucked to be you. We all felt really bad, but we were young too, and we couldn't really do much to help you. It's like, no, that's okay, but that's why I'm that way. I didn't mean it. Forgive me. And then the next family reunion, he's just up to the same old stuff. And eventually it's like, Jesus, dude, yeah, I know you had a tough upbringing, but can you grow up? Can you actually improve a little bit? No, I can't. Screw you. And if you continue to persist, then that outcast seems to use it as fuel against you. And eventually the family starts to fracture and divide because you're a jerk. You can't accept him for who he is. He knows that you know his upbringing. So anyway, you kind of get it, right? It's harder. It's harder to defeat that enemy or that problem within the family. Now, the whole family will unite if somebody in another family attacks your family. Oh, then you got the Hatfield and the McCoys. Doesn't matter if it was over a pig or whatever the argument's over. Your whole family is on the same page. Might hate each other, disagree with the black sheep. But boy, did you see him storm in there and just whoop on those guys? Yeah, it was great. Glad he was there. So you can't fight the enemy within. All enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, that's why we have a military, because they're supposed to be impartial, and that's why we pay them to fight enemies also domestic, which means enemy within. Well, then you really don't have any allies, do you? The media thinks you're stupid. That family's stupid. Bob's a nice guy. Why are they always picking on Bob? Oh, it's because he's tall. We'll call him a racist or prejudiced to tall people. He's imposing. He doesn't like that. Probably because he's insecure. That's why they all hate Bob, because Bob is assertive, and they're just insecure. So you see, the enemy just starts to win by virtue of just having the media, all the people looking in and judging your family or your country.
Hey preppers, you've got your storable food, you've got your guns and ammo, you've got your basic introduction to prepping. So now what? Prepping 2.0, the next level, because you're not prepared unless you're fully prepared. But don't worry, the next step isn't expensive, time-consuming, or kooky. Prepping 2.0 is the show to help you move to the next level of your prepping game. Join authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher every Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock for Prepping 2.0, right here on 540 AM KYAH, Utah's Talk Authority.
Look at that clown in France giving us crap for loving our nation first above their stupid little third world rat hole. Yeah, they got neat buildings and they probably make good food. But, to just lecture our president on saying he's a nationalist. Well, then I'm a nationalist. Screw your crappy little country, France. Nobody needs you. In fact, if we wouldn't have bailed you out, you'd be part of Germany right now, or Russia. Everyone hates Russia, right? Russia. So who cares what they think? But the media cares what they think, and the media is just sitting there going, whoa, what's his face? I don't even know his name. I care so little about him because I'm a nationalist that, everybody's on France's side. Why? Because they hate Trump. So how do you defeat your enemy within? You look around. Voter fraud, rampant. How do you defeat that? Well, you could raise a stink about it. Well, I wrote my congressman. Oh, great. You wasted a stamp on that. I'm going to protest. Well, no one will pay attention unless you burn a building down, and then you will get arrested because you're not a socialist. So you can't do that. So how do you fight? Oh, knowledge. We didn't even like learning crap in school when that was our main job, to just pay attention to the teacher and get lunch. So to really start digging into the problems, that's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. Now, the 3% back in the colonial days, they just said enough's enough. They took matters into their own hands, and they didn't have the media breathing down their neck. And so we became a nation. Thank God for the 3%. Now, don't construe this to mean that I'm a believer in the 3%ers, because I haven't seen much out of them. Now, I'm sure they're out there doing stuff. I mean, it's only 3% of America. So even back in the colonial days, it was still a small number. But they were able to rally the troops and all that and get people together and go, let's fight England. We can do this. We can be our own nation. And since CNN and MSNBC wasn't out there going, you're stupid. What are you talking about? England's great. Look at that. They protect us. They give us ports of entry. They do all these things that we do now without them. But back then they were so myopic they couldn't see that England was actually a threat and not a help. So they didn't have the media, and they weren't fighting uphill battles just to get the consensus. They just started shooting. And then everyone went, that's a great idea. I think I'll shoot too. Who are we shooting at? Those guys over there. Stupid English people. Oh, okay. So just point my gun at them guys wearing the funky feathery hats. Yeah, shoot them. Okay, cool. So the movement took place and it happened. And then the rest is history, as they say. Well, how can we do that today? I mean, we can't. I mean, speaking of cheap suits folding under pressure, look what happened in Oregon. I mean, we had the Oath Keepers there. We had the 3%ers there. We had some militias there. And we had the FBI there. And we had the media there. Not too big of a battle. 5 big groups. And The Oath Keepers and the 3%ers were so busy bickering amongst themselves about timing and strategy that nothing got done because I guess they wanted to talk their enemy to death, which didn't work. So when the chips were down, the big groups folded, not because they're cowards, but because they didn't want to lose standing in Facebook. I don't know, wherever. They didn't like that the media was picking on them, calling them religious Bible thumpers who cling to their God's gun and religion. I really don't know why, but they were allowed to become marginalized. So they basically wandered home with their tail between their legs, and now they spend most of their time trying to regroup and raise money and wait for the next thing. We'll do it right this time. Well, if you're always waiting for your enemy to pick the battlefield, it's pretty much a given you're going to lose that one too. You don't let the opposition lawyer write the contract. Get your own lawyer, basically. So it's strategy, just business, it's military, it's argumentative, it's family, it's strategy. You got to have a strategy. Now, I did present a strategy to the Oath Keepers. They said, hey guys, got a map? That strategy went nowhere. I didn't even get an FU email back. Like, don't tell us what to do. We're smart. We're Oath Keepers. All of our training. Oh, yeah. Federal training from bureaucrats that told you that, martial law could be real and you'd have to follow martial law. Well, no, it's unconstitutional. But so that's where they get their training. And, for the most part of them, retired, Oath Keepers nowadays have been trained, let's just say 50 years ago by the same bureaucratic dummies that are training them today. So I don't know if they think they're smarter than the American people, but they won't listen. Because I'm thinking, what happened on the wildlife refuge was a good idea. They got together, somebody got mad. He took a stand and he said, this is our land. And the federal government's like, no, you just thought it was your land. It's really our land. And they brought in the FBI, and then the FBI, being that they had more boots on the ground and more technology and were able to do so many things because we funded them way too much, they were able to back down the militias, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers. So my strategy was, it's like, hey, we have the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers organization out there with Sheriff Mack. So he knows all the good constitutional sheriffs, if there are hardly any, but he knows the good ones that would maybe help take a stand in matters like that. And then we have the Oath Keepers, and they're all, good guys, and they know how to strategize. I said, why don't you guys get a map and then find all these places where you have good sheriffs, and then you put a little pin in that map. See, it's not like high tech on the computer. You just stick a little pin in the map. And then you go, okay, we got like 100 wildlife refuges or federal land that they've stolen from the states, to where we're going to stage a protest, kind of like what Lavoie and them guys did in Oregon. And we're going to do it on one day. We're going to do it next week at 3:00. And we will have the sheriffs notified and everything. So when the FBI comes in, we can get them to stand down because we have good sheriffs. And they don't have enough manpower in the FBI, that is, to bring that much technology and boots on the ground to bear in 100 places. Sure, they can do it in one. They can scramble and get a lot of agents there and look all bad and crap. But if you did 100 of them and you did it on one coordinated day with the sheriff's help, and then the Oath Keepers and constitutional lawyers and the 3%ers in that area, we would have more physical presence on the ground than the federal government could bring. And then all of a sudden, you might back down on a few of these. You're just doing it to really dilute the strength of the FBI on a matter like this. I'm not saying we want to weaken our FBI. But in this kind of a situation, yeah, you kind of do. So then all of a sudden, out of that 100, let's say that 10 of them have a positive outcome. The FBI backs down, the sheriffs stand up, the media, just has to report the story then. It's like there's no drama because the whole community is for it. And the sheriffs are, got your back, basically. Keeping, all the FBI guys out of the state, or at least the county, then you have a victory. Now, it's a small victory, but it's a victory. See, now you can chalk up one for the good guys. And then you could do this in all kinds of ways, but it takes a coordinated effort. Now, the Democrats have coordinated efforts. All these voter fraud, do you think that wasn't coordinated, or it was just haphazard? Oh, look, all these dead people voted. That was amazing. We won that one. No, it takes coordinated effort. You don't see the Democrats eating their own like you do Republicans. So we need to start fighting, and that's just one way. Will it happen? No, never. I hate to be, a doom and gloomer, but you're just not going to rally people anymore around a cause like freedom and liberty, because it is so passé. And when you bring it up to people, they're like, we're free. I've been all around the world, and this is still the greatest place to live. Yeah, it is. It's a crap sandwich made on sourdough instead of just crummy white bread. But it's still a crap sandwich. Are we better than 99.9% of the world? In a lot of ways, yes, we are. But then you got to consider, out of those 200-300 countries out there in the world, most of them are smaller than your county. So it's hard to factor that in as a bad thing. But you look at Georgia, by Russia, not Georgia in America. They patterned their government after the founding fathers. They have a constitutional republic. They have a lot of freedom. They get harassed by Russia a lot, but I think Russia's even starting to back down. So they're all playing their little games, but there's freedom and liberty there. Russia has now allowed their people to own private property. That's a step forward. Russia pays families to have babies, not to kill them. That's a step forward. Russia protects Christianity, unlike in America, where we really don't care. We seem to be protecting the people that want to kill Christians. So, yes, it's still a crap sandwich. And so far, we're still the best tasting crap sandwich because of the kind of crap we put on it. But it's a crap sandwich. So, that old tired logic that, I've been around the world and, man, America's the greatest place to live. Yes, it is. And you could probably put 100 of those countries that you visited inside the United States, because we're a continent. There's China, there's Russia, there's America, there's Canada, Mexico. Those are kind of like big parts of a continent. The rest of them are little tiny dots on a map. The country of, I can't even think of them because I really don't care about them. They're a big city with a large landmass, and that's about it. France is not that big. I mean, the whole EU is made up of all these little tiny countries that they can take a high-speed rail from one country to another. Can you do that in America? Can you take a high-speed rail from, the center of America to the center of Canada, leave at 7 and be at work by 8? No, you cannot. So my point is that when people use that logic that, I've been all around the world and America's still the greatest nation in the world. Yes, it is. And no, it isn't. We're losing it. We're becoming those places that all the people talk about. I was once there and it sucks compared to America. We're becoming that. We just celebrated Veterans Day. The veterans that lost their lives fighting fascism in Germany. Meanwhile, the media is celebrating Antifa, which, yes, their marketing campaign is, we are anti-fascist. Sure. Just like McDonald's could start advertising that they're wholesome food. It's good food. It's inexpensive food. It has a good flavor. And I like their hamburger meat because it's high in fat, and I'm a fat eater. But other than that, don't sit there and tell me McDonald's is a health food restaurant. And that's what Antifa's doing. They're wordsmithing, and they're playing doublespeak games, just like Orwell's 1984. So we're celebrating them. The media is protecting them. And everybody's like, oh, Antifa this and Antifa that. And if you're on one side, you're like, screw them. And if you're on the other side, It's like, yeah, we're anti-fascist because all the members actually believe the marketing that they're being told. They're all sitting at McDonald's eating French fries going, this is gourmet food. It's better than a 5-star restaurant because they're so dumbed down that they believe it, but it doesn't make it true. So our grandfathers and great-grandfathers fought World War I and World War II, which was all created because of these fascist jerks in Germany. And we went over there and shot them dead with bullets and rifles because they were the enemy over there. Now we have the enemy within. Can you just go out and shoot fascists or anti-fascists, whatever they call themselves? No. Can the police just arrest them and have Nuremberg trials? No. So we're fighting an enemy that's inside of our borders, made up of our family, that are fighting against us to bring about a change in America that is so detrimental that if another country outside of our borders was trying to do that, we would blow them off the map, just like we did Germany. We were fighting fascism. But you can't do that here. And you have the police that are mindless, useless idiots standing down when Antifa is burning cop cars. Those are our tax dollars that paid for that cop car. It's not like, oh, the feds paid for that. It's not like, oh, the state paid for that. They don't have money unless they take it from you. And these asshats are burning your police car that you paid for. All that fancy equipment on there. The $300, $400, $500 light bar and all the radios and stuff that were in there. You paid for that and no one can do anything about it. So the police are in stand down mode all the time. So they're really useless idiots to the media or for the media. You have the media that are just idiots that are presenting this story as if it's, like a good thing, that Antifa in these protests won't allow people to speak freely in a university, which is also our money, a lot of it. So how do you fight that? You have police agencies that are corrupt. How do you fight that? How do you call 911 when your problem involves the people that showed up when you called 911? How do you fight that? How do you fix it? You don't. You just shut up. How do you call somebody that's the chief law enforcement officer in your area when he's bought and paid for by the feds? I'm talking about your sheriff, the one chief law enforcement officer constitutionally granted more authority than the FBI and the chief of police combined. The sheriff can do what the sheriff thinks is best to protect your rights regardless of the governor of the state, because all rights go from the federal government to the state and then to the people, and the people elect the sheriff. So the sheriff can ignore orders from the governor, orders from the president, but he cannot or she cannot ignore orders from you because you are the people. Who do you call then? Well, you could call your sheriff, but like in my county, the sheriff has a part-time job licking the boots of the federal government because he got some kind of little thing, I don't even know what it is, to where now he works for Homeland Security. Oh, ain't that cute? And who's paying you? Well, Homeland's paying you for that, and then we're paying you for this. So now you're trying to serve two masters. And all the sheriffs are so overwhelmed, even the good ones, come under so much pressure from the media. Sheriff Clark of Wisconsin was a constitutional sheriff. He was under pressure. Why did he resign? I don't know, because he still seems pretty young and healthy. Did he get voted out by voter fraud? Probably. Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona, Maricopa County. He was sued so many times by who? The federal government. For what? Doing what his constituents ask him to do. He's a constitutional sheriff. So who do you call? Who do you call? There's no Ghostbusters or Fedbusters. Who are you going to call? You're building something on your property. Along comes some jerkweed puppet from the planning and zoning. Hey, you can't build that. Normally, 100 years ago, if somebody stepped foot on your property or your ranch and told you you can't do that, they probably ended up getting buried somewhere out on your ranch. So you'd sit there and go, well, get off of here. This is private property. Go away. Why are you talking to me about, I'm building a pole barn? Well, you didn't get a permit. You're not licensed. And you hired all these people, and they're, I don't know who they are. Are they registered? Are they licensed contractors? Well, what the hell do you care? So then what happens? You get into an argument with the guy. Who does he call? He calls the police. And the police will come and write you a ticket for chewing gum on a Thursday. So that doesn't do you any good. So now planning and zoning now has you into the system. You better show up in court because that's the law. So now you go to court and you try to explain it to the judge, and you're like, Judge, this is private property. I'm building a pole barn out there 1,000 feet away from anything. How can that hurt any? Well, sir, you just need to get a permit. So you're in violation of the law. Yeah, but I don't need a permit. When do I need permission, which is what permit stands for? Why do I need permission to build a pole barn on my property? Well, that's just the law. See, we wrote you a ticket for having brown hair and blue eyes. And from what I can see, you have brown hair and blue eyes. So you're guilty. Just pay the fine and get a permit. Oh, so there's no reason behind it now other than it was written down and all the voter fraud allowed these clowns to be in office. So I guess now I have to get a permit. And if you call the sheriff is so busy solving real crimes like murders and stuff in your county and whatever else goes on in your county, that he's not going to be able to send a deputy.
Shelby Gallagher here, letting you know the second book in my book series, A Great State, is set for release on October 28th. Book 2, The Aftermath, is a continuation of the story from The Divide, where our main character, Julie, a single mother, preps for a collapse. Her story is one of overcoming, strength, and prepping as her community crumbles around her. Sound like recent headlines? Book 2 continues the story with tragic details of what life will be like for those who don't prepare. Pre-order your copy now at my website, agreatstate.com.
Now, you should be able to at least call the sheriff's department and go, hey, I got this clown on my property from planning and zoning. I've asked him to leave, and now he's called a police officer, and now they're asking to come on my property and write me a ticket. I need someone here. Well, we're really busy. Now, because you've taken that step in the authority chain of custody and command and all of that, which is lawful and constitution, the zoning guy and the police chief or whoever shows up by now should go, okay, we're going to stand down until we can have the sheriff here. It might buy you a day or two. Not saying buy you like, woo, dodge that bullet. No, you dodged an unconstitutional bullet. Yes. But my sheriff, he's so busy, worried about what Homeland Security thinks that he's probably busy. His sheriffs have all been trained by him, who thinks working for Homeland Security is great because now we can buy more equipment paid for by the feds. So that's a good thing, right? Because we all know where our bread's buttered. So you don't have anyone in your corner. So when you're in a corner, who do you call? Well, you don't call 911. And good luck calling the sheriff. You might get a sheriff to show up if it's a smaller community and you know the sheriff, and he'll send a deputy out and go, hey, zoning dude and cop, get off of here. This is private property. If you show up again, I'm going to arrest you for harassment. This is my constituent. I protect his rights, not yours. Get out of here. And if you come back again, he's going to file charges against you for harassment. Then it would all go away. But you can't have that because, God forbid, people are building pole barns out there without permits. I can't believe it. You could build a pole barn. It could fall over. A squirrel might get hurt. Oh, dear. What are we going to do? You can't have that happening. So it's all for your safety. We've lost security. We've lost freedom. We've lost liberty. But now we're safe because, like, if your neighbor builds a pole barn and it falls over and kills a squirrel, don't you feel better? I would. I would think that's great because I like squirrels. I don't even shoot the ones in my yard that are eating all my low voltage wiring because they're just so damn cute. So we all feel safer. Yay. No more pole barns built by unlicensed wild card builders. Oh, the property owner? Yeah, them. Because that pole barn will create shade or protect your hay. And sure as hell don't put any electric or wire or a sewer or like a septic tank there for a toilet, to where if you're out in the field and you're getting hay and you just got that urge to go to the bathroom, well, now you've violated 5,000 other ordinances about something. So we can't have that. We should have that, but we don't have freedom and liberty anymore. And we're losing it day by day, election by election, through voter fraud, lying media, and apathy. Now that's just drilling down onto one little stupid thing like a pole barn, and how you would normally be able to call a sheriff and go, hey, help me out here, buddy. You're my bodyguard. You got to have my 6 because this, cop is just out of order, and the planning and zoning is violating my private property by trespassing. I've asked him to leave. He will not leave. And normally, if I ask someone to leave my house and they don't I have the right to at least physically throw them out of the house? Well, yeah, unless they, work for the city. That would be assaulting a moron with a pseudo-plastic badge. So you can see how these things, elections do have consequences. Obama was correct. Elections have consequences. And the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties for the federal government. He was right about that too. I mean, of course, the media wanted to twist it all around, especially Fox News. It's like, Obama's nuts. He's supposed to be a constitutional lawyer. No, it's true. It's right. It's a charter of negative liberties for the federal government, which was created by virtue of the compact called the Constitution. The government cannot do these things to you. And we're talking about the federal government. Cannot infringe upon your right to bear arms. Cannot take away your free speech, freedom of religion. Cannot. All these things are things they cannot do. Now, if you notice some of the newer amendments been added, they're like, we can do whatever we want because we got the good and plenty clause in there. And so they just keep lying to us through the media and their puppets, and we keep believing it because we're so busy that we don't have time to even pay attention. So now we have voter fraud. And you can see how it's incrementally destroying our country for the last 80 years. And eventually we will wake up in a socialist country. We will wake up like Cuba did after Castro won. And all of a sudden, brown shirts are walking around saying, your bar, we've decided you can keep your nightclub open, but you cannot play music that has a saxophone in it. If you don't believe me, watch the movie The Lost City with Andy Garcia. If you care about freedom and liberty and you want to watch this stupidity and the collapse that happened in Cuba, if you have a heart, it'll make you cry. So in come the brown shirts, and Andy Garcia owns a nightclub, and they're like, the saxophone is an immoral instrument, so you can't do that. So he has to quit if he wants to keep his nightclub open, which is what feeds him and his family. So that's how it happens. See, it's one little thing. It's a saxophone. It's silly putty. It's a pole barn. It's election fraud. And it just gets more and more and more rampant. It's one termite and then a nest of termites. And then your foundation is gone. And you have to rebuild the house or it falls down. We're not going to rebuild America because, well, we're busy. And if we think about rebuilding it, you got the media over there like a nagging spouse. Like, why would you want to do that? That's just a lot of money. Don't be stupid. No. And then the house falls down. And that's what will happen. We all prepare for that day when everything collapses. But why? When we could stop it from collapsing. But we're not going to because we're busy and we're apathetic and we're confused. And we've been lied to our whole lives because this has been going on since Wilson. And before that, but Wilson and FDR really pushed it. And FDR loved Hitler. He loved the fascist movement. He thought that was great. And that's the Democrats' golden boy. FDR this, FDR that, FDR. So we can't, not to be negative. I want to try to end on a positive note. Yeah, we can fix it. It's not going to happen. There, that's as positive as I can get. Because we're lied to by the media. We've grown up for the last 80 years being lied to in school. And now we're immersed in social media. And that's being censored. So we're being lied to in the social media. All of the people that we share and like their comments are the same as us. They've been lied to. They don't understand what freedom and liberty really is. And I believed this and thought this for years. Everybody loves the sound of freedom and liberty until it's time to live it. Because you're free to open the stupidest business and run it the worst way possible and to go bankrupt and be homeless because you're free. Oh, well, just because I made a mistake doesn't mean I should, have to eat food out of a garbage can. Yeah, that's freedom. Hopefully you weren't a jerk to your family and they help take care of you. Well, the government will do that. And this is the mindset. I talk to really good people in law enforcement, really good people I know in the Border Patrol that love America, really good retired military guys. And here's what it boils down to. I was talking to a retired guy in the military from our, military intelligence. And I said, well, I was talking about Obama because I couldn't stand Obama. And so there's this big smiling bug out there on post. There's a picture of Obama everywhere you turn around, kind of like Stalin. And I go, oh, it's scary to see him there because it's almost like when I'd have a substitute teacher walk into class in high school. It's like, oh, nothing's going to get done. He's a substitute. I considered Obama an 8-year substitute because he's a moron. And he's like, well, he's the commander-in-chief. And I go, well, not really. And this guy's military. He's like captain or something. I was there for his house and personal business. I really didn't care when I was talking to him on post. And he goes, what do you mean? He's the commander-in-chief. President's always commander-in-chief. I go, the president of the United States is only commander-in-chief when the Constitution says he is. And the Constitution says he's the commander-in-chief when Congress declares war and funds that war. Not a little, like a 3-week, we can go blow them up for 3 weeks and then we'll just extend it. And now you're commander-in-chief forever. Because that's why presidents like the War Powers Act, because it seems to make them commander-in-chief as long as they got that little loophole that they wrote in there. It's not a legal loophole. They just stuck it there. So he's like, well, no, president is commander-in-chief. The minute he's elected, he's commander-in-chief. And I go, no, constitutionally, he is only commander-in-chief when there's a declaration of war signed by Congress. Other than that, the military falls under the authority of Congress. And he's like, I don't, that's not what they taught me at West Point. It's like, oh my God, at West Point, they're teaching stuff that is not true. Talk to any retired military guy from grunt to general and ask him if the president declared martial law, what do you think would happen? And they will tell you that the military would have to follow the commander-in-chief and follow the orders of martial law. Now, martial law does not exist in a representative republic, but they would follow that. Well, that if the president of any country declares martial law and uses the military to enforce that, that's called a military coup. So martial law has to be governed in a certain way. The military could step in and say, all you clowns in Washington are so dang corrupt that we're throwing you all out of office and we're going to have a new election. And we're going to kind of see that things are running and the lights stay on until we have new, clean, fair elections. But the military would make that decision for the people because the military are the people. That would be closer to true constitutional military law, if you can even say that in the same sentence. So they believe that the president is commander-in-chief and could enact martial law. And this is what they've been taught for the last 80 years too. So incrementally, we've been lied to and we're being screwed. And I'm sure that sentence there about martial law and the president has ruffled a lot of feathers. Good. I hope so. Now, instead of, telling me what an idiot I am, first go look it up. And don't Google MSNBC and see what they think about the commander-in-chief. Google some things that are constitutional. Like actually read the Constitution. It's not that hard. It's only 3,300 words or 3,500 words in it. I mean, there's more words in the book of Genesis, which people quote to me all the time. So you can read the Constitution and go, oh, yeah, Congress is over the military. Oh, by the way, did you know that there should be no standing army? Oh, I didn't know that either. And then all of a sudden you'll see that these workarounds have led to us becoming a military state, putting more faith in the president than was ever given him authority to do. Senators writing laws when they're voted instead of appointed. It's all a mess. So when I say that this voter fraud is just another nail in the coffin, that sound that you're hearing echo through the country is the echo of that last nail being pounded in to freedom and liberty's coffin. And there's probably a lot more nails because they want to nail that bad boy close before they really take any chances. And all they got to do is wait a few more years. The real patriots are dying off. They're old, the real patriots. And now we have a pseudo mindset, a pseudo group of patriots that we're patriot in name only. And trust me, I'm no different. As much as, that zoning guy coming on my property, I'd rather bury him in the backyard. I'm not going to because I'm a law-abiding citizen and I believe in not killing people for no good reason. I think liberty and freedom and private property is a good reason, as said by and shown by example of the founders that just went to war with England. They're just like, that's it. It's just time to start shooting. But I won't do that. So I'm no different of a sun-signed patriot. I just get more riled up about it because you can't pull together enough people to get anything done. And you're not going to be able to do it because just like with, what happened to Lavoy Finnegan, the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers, as good as their motives were pushed out of the picture. Now, there was probably a lot of backroom deals going on and stuff, but they were pushed out of the picture. How'd that happen? I don't know. You don't know, but it happened. So you're not going to get together a big group and save the country. It's not going to happen. It's got to be individual. A bunch of individuals doing the right thing would be nice, but it's not going to happen. That's why I call it cancer. It's just like your body. It's made up of bazillions of cells. They're all doing the right thing. They're not being given marching orders. They just do it. That's the way they were made, DNA and all that. And when some of them run amok, it becomes cancer. And if enough of them run amok, it metastasizes and the host dies. So that's why I call it cancer. It's cancer. Cells going wrong everywhere, goofing up, running amok. And they're no longer following the DNA that says you're free, freedom and liberty, and don't buy into all this stuff has been, given a shot and it don't work anymore. So we're getting cancer. We're dying. So you will learn over time as I rant and rave that this is pretty much typical of me to just get pissed about something and then go off in a million different directions. And it's really not a million different directions because they all point to one direction. We're losing our country, and it's happening over generations. And soon we will wake up and go, oh, I prepared for a collapse. But it happened so slowly like the blob that I didn't even see that it was now stuck on my boot. And before you can do anything about it, you'll be dead. That's how it works. That's how the blob used to work in that B-rated movie back in the day.
Contra Radio listeners, this is Randy from Bulldog Custom Gun Leather. I've been building the finest custom leather holsters that money can buy for the past 12 years. I'm a retired 35-year veteran police officer and have carried a concealed firearm daily for the past 42 years. I know what works and what doesn't work for the safe and comfortable carrying of concealed firearms. I use only the finest premium cowhide tanned in the USA. Bulldog Custom Gun Leather is not a large holster manufacturer and never will be. All my holsters are handcrafted one at a time by me in my shop located in Fort Smith, Arkansas. My website address is www.bulldogleathercompany.com. That's bulldogleathercompany.com. Mention Contra Radio and receive a 10% discount on your order. Thanks.
So I was thinking the other day on diet and nutrition. I was talking to a lot of family members that are always complaining about their weight issues, and And then I try to tell them, I go, it's a mathematical problem. It really isn't biochemistry. I mean, it is, but I go, if you look at it that way, it gets confusing. I go, it's just mathematics. I go, there's thermodynamics, which is energy in, energy out. Calories in, calories out. It's calorie theory. It's thermodynamics. You can argue with it all you want, but it's math. And so I was trying to explain to one of my daughter-in-laws, it's like, it's pretty simple. I go, it doesn't matter if you're worried about carbs or sugar, or you call it pasta or bread or potatoes or sweet bean casserole or whatever. Everything you eat, if it's carbohydrate based, will raise your insulin levels. And I actually got a consensus. Everybody's like, yeah, I've heard that. And I go, so it's not just talking about sugar, like white sugar, that you put in your, tea or coffee. I go, it's sugar, it's glucose, it's from pasta, it's from bread, it's from potatoes, it's from a lot of the foods we eat that we all love and enjoy. And then that's where the sugar comes from. So they're like, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. I've heard that before. Makes sense. Okay. And then I got them to believe that, even fruit and fructose is sugar. It will raise your insulin. So I go, once you put it all in that category, then all you have to do is do the math. If you eat too much, carbohydrate food, your blood glucose goes up. And I think my daughter-in-law, who, works in the medical field, she's like, yeah, right. And I go, so that creates insulin. And she's like, yes. And so insulin is used to bring down blood sugar or the glucose. And she's like, yes, that's what it's for. It's like, awesome. We're on the same page. So I said, if you get a meter like a diabetic uses that measures your glucose in microunits per deciliter, then if you always keep your insulin in your blood or your blood sugar below, 20 to 30, you will remain in fat burning mode. And she's like, then that's where she kind of tuned out and goes, well, I haven't never heard that. And I go, well, it's peer reviewed studies that show that once your insulin gets to 20 microunits per deciliter, then you shut off half of your fat burning capabilities within the body. I go, if it gets over 32 microunits per deciliter, it shuts it off completely for 4 hours because the body has to clear the blood of glucose. And she kind of agreed with that a little bit, but it's like, now we're kind of getting out into the weeds. So I go, it's just math. I go, never let your blood sugar get higher than 20. And I said, so that's pretty easy to do. Just keep your carbohydrates per meal down to, 20, 25, 30 grams. And then that meal won't spike your insulin up over 20 to 30. Then you're okay. I said, as long as you're okay and you're not in that mood or that mode that your body goes into when it gets up over 32, where it flips a switch and all it can do is burn sugar. It's got to get rid of the sugar. Has to do that. So then it can't burn the fat all around your body that you want to get rid of. And I said, but if you don't do that and you don't flip that switch, then when you get hungry, your body will draw from the fat reserves that it's been layering on for years, and you'll slowly start losing weight. And I go, and then all you got to do is just figure out how many calories you need in a day and don't eat more than that. If you want to lose weight even quicker, eat less than that, or do intermediate fasting, which is really just skipping breakfast, because you come out of sleep and then your body's in pure fat burning mode, and then you don't feed it, so then it attacks all the layers of fat that we hate so much. So I go, it's really a mathematical problem, and that makes it easier for some people to look at. Just keep your insulin below 20 and definitely below 32 microunits per deciliter, and you will always be burning fat along with anything else you eat that might be a carbohydrate. But if you eat too much carbohydrates, then you're going to go up over that number, and then it's going to shut off fat burning. So once it shuts off fat burning, well, you're not burning fat. So just, keep an eye on that and keep your carbohydrates low. It doesn't mean you can't have some sugar with your coffee or your tea. It doesn't mean you can't have maybe a piece of bread or a slice of toast, but don't have a slice of toast with your, cream of wheat or oatmeal and then have a bagel. And then, put an egg on the side too, because now you're just too many carbs. And so the egg just goes into storage because the egg contains fat, but you're up over 32. So all it can do with it is shuffle it off over into storage again. Once again, more fat added onto your body, which we don't like. So, just keep an eye on it. It's not a carbohydrate thing, because I know people, the minute you say, oh, don't eat carbohydrates, then they're like, oh, you're one of them. That's the keto thing. Oh, you're one of them. That's the paleo thing. Oh, yeah, I tried that, low carb, high fat thing. It's like, no, it's a mathematical thing. Just eat less carbohydrates because it's bad for you. It's sugar. I mean, doctors have been saying eat less sugar for years, but they've always left out all the other kinds of sugar like honey and fruit and bread and pasta. And so when they say don't eat sugar, we automatically assume they're talking about, white sugar, that's in a sugar jar, and then we put it in everything and stir it up so it dissolves. No, there's more sugar than that, and it's all just sugar. So it's kind of a consensus that we shouldn't eat sugar. But people start to slice and dice and get into the minutia. If it's sugar, don't eat it. And unfortunately, carbs have sugar. But if you're keeping it under 20, 25 grams per meal, then you can have a slice of toast. I put sugar in with my coffee in the morning in my heavy whipping cream, but I don't put so much in there that I raise my insulin too high. So then that way when I'm eating, I'm not spiking my insulin. So I'm getting the fat and burning the fat in my body and doing what it's supposed to do. So it's not a no carb diet. It's just a very low carb diet. But you still have a lot of latitude to move. If you can't live without, pasta, have a small portion of pasta for one meal in a week, and then have some other stuff that goes good with it. Just don't eat so much pasta that you go over 32. See, it's math. And so it's easier to do that way when you're not telling yourself, I'm never eating carbs again, because we've all heard that. I'm never going to smoke again. I'm never going to drink again. Well, it's a very unrealistic and hard goal to achieve when you just go cold turkey. And carbohydrates and sugar is just as addictive as nicotine and caffeine. So don't fool yourself into thinking that you'll go on this diet after the holidays. And then it's like, well, I'll go on that diet after, when the summer starts coming, because I want to get in that bathing suit. I'll go on this diet after, because then there's, before you know it, it's Thanksgiving again. Just do it and just go, I'm cutting back. I'm not going cold turkey. I'm going to cut my carbs down to no more than 20 grams per meal. That's 60 grams in a day, 3 meals a day. And so if you can't live without a certain item, then save that as your treat. So you do good all day, and then you have a Klondike bar or, whatever it is that rocks your world, as long as it doesn't spike your insulin. And if you do it at the end of the day, then you're better off, because, you eat and then you give it about 4 hours for that to process. So before you go to bed, you might have your treat. Well, it's not going to hurt you because you're asleep then. So it'll burn off that insulin while you're at a resting metabolism rate. And so you're not requiring as much. And then it switches back by the time you wake up. I'm not saying do it all the time. It's a bad idea. But you could, every once in a while, have a serving of mashed potatoes if you like it. Just don't go hog wild. And if you're going to eat a lot of carbohydrates, then don't eat fat with it, because all that fat's just going to get shuffled off into the storage unit. And so will the sugar, the excess sugar it can't burn. So then you're just screwing yourself twice as bad. I think that made sense. So I think I'm going to wrap this up, because I feel awful. Thank you. I don't know who did this to me. It was probably one of the grandkids that, was sick or something, or one of our house guests that coughed on me or something like that. But I will talk to you all next week, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in. And haven't been getting too many good or bad comments on the phone line, so give me a call, 520-261-9149, and let me know what you think. That would be awesome. Some questions, if you have any, that'll give us something to talk about. And other than that, I just want to thank you all again for hearing me out this week. You guys have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.